Welcome to MDT Academy. I'm Tammy Taylor, your manifestation muse. Musing you to let go of the mother that you want in order to accept the one that you have. And we've been talking about the mother we have. That's a double entendre. Of course, accepting the mother we have is forgiveness of our birth mother. That looks differently for each and every one of us. Sometimes that forgiveness looks like no contact. I accept it. It is what it is. This is too toxic for me to live with. I bless you with love. I am grateful for the life we have shared and our soul connection that has taught and continues to teach me so much. It can look like intense continued contact and conflict and drama and trying to work it out this lifetime. It can look like blockages, emotional, physical, mental blockages that we accept, but take a lifetime to work through. And all of us fall somewhere in between because, as we know here, it is a cycle. All of life is a cycle. Speaking of cycles, today we're talking about your wheelhouse. What is a wheelhouse and how can we use it to create what we want in our lives by using the gifts, skills, talents, and abilities it indicates for us? Welcome to all new listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. And for those of you who have been with me since the beginning and who have come in and listened to the sessions here at MDT Academy, I love and appreciate you too. Because you give my life meaning. You give my life purpose, 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 and you help me grow. You help me grow so much. So, as you know, we take breaks here at the Academy, as we should, to rest and reflect and just relax from all of this downloading and processing and tips and tools and techniques and all that. So this year, for the summer break, we're going to stay here. Yay! We're going to stay here, or at least I will be here for anyone who just wants to relax, reflect, and do a little bit of processing that needs to happen for you and for me. I usually just kind of tune out and deflate and all of that stuff, which I can still do because when I'm doing that, I am preparing for the next semester. I'm picking up things and reevaluating things and learning new things and, just kind of marinating on things and writing notes and recording a little song here or there that inspires me. And I'm going to still be doing all of that. It's just that you're going to be in on it. You're going to be in on it. And so when they come to me, I'm going to just start recording them instead of just notating them for the next semester. So I don't know, what should we call it? I don't know, summer sessions, I guess. But we need something in there about everything I just said as well. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'd really appreciate it. If you're new here, you don't see any comments or anything like that, I'm not going to show you my backdoor stats, but I will let you know. Empaths aren't really into a lot of chit chat, We just really aren't. speaking of backdoor, my messages, that's where they come. So again, everybody, you already know. If you don't, message me directly through the app, or you're on Instagram. We have a private account, Mama Drama Trauma Academy. Just request to join us there and message me through there. And that tends to be the way that we go. This may change. It may change just as we're making this change here about summer sessions. There's some offers to expand some of the work that we're doing here, and I don't know that I feel like it. I don't know that I feel like it. We'll see how this summer goes. I'm working on some things that I think will help us here with what we're doing here digitally with the deck and that sort of thing. So I don't know. If I'm hearing more from you, I'll put my energy there. If I'm hearing more from, some of the newer people, I'll put my energy there. Just what is going to expand and enlighten my purpose. And so I want to be in that energy. You feel me? I feel you. So let's go ahead and get started. The Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck is a gentle, loving, irreverent way of connecting yourself to your feelings so that you can learn to trust your intuition. Yes, we are divine, but we are also human. Learn to live in loving detachment from all of the conditions that make you feel detached from that divinity. It's within you. You see it in everything else. For empaths with the mother wound, go to mamadramatrauma.info. And the foundation of our learning here is the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck that has the signs and symbols of the lunar cycle, chakras, gods, and goddesses. I speak from my personal experience and professional experience working with empaths with the mother wounds. And so, as a sufferer and survivor of MDT myself, I have learned that while empaths benefit from the method, the MDT Healing Oracle deck, and the academy here that reinforces the principles that Great Mother downloaded through those signs and symbols, sharing the tips, tools, and techniques to use it. Mama Drama Trauma is a condition in which empaths experience the mother wound as persistent and consistent abandonment and abuse. It's ongoing. It is chronic and complex. Okay, it is a complex trauma. And so if it benefits you and you are not an empath with the mother wound, that's all the more wonderful that you understand that definition, because the requirement for you is not so much being able to necessarily relate to not being able to distinguish between your emotions and your mother's emotions, but more that you are able to use it and catch the concept and run with working through what may be a consistent issue in your relationship. And I thank the non-empaths for bringing that to my attention, that is very useful for them just to work through individual issues. The relationship overall is fine, but a piercing issue is something that they have found they are extremely sensitive to themselves, and the deck and the academy is useful for you. So welcome everyone. Of course, this is not about getting over MDT, under, around it. We must go through it by learning to live in loving detachment. And so that's what we're doing here today with answering the question, what is your wheelhouse and how to make it work for you? We hear all the time about our wheelhouse. This is not my wheelhouse. Usually in conversations about a particular skill or talent that's needed, and say an organization needs a singer to perform for an event, and someone says, "Hey, I heard you can sing. You know, we can use you. What do you know how to sing?" And the person can respond in that conversation, for example, by saying, "Hey, you know." I know how to carry a tune, but performing is not my wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse, astrologically, our wheelhouse is our gift, our specific skill that our soul came here with, and talent. So I'm always talking about our gifts, abilities, skills, and talents, of which we have many as old souls. We've had many, many past lives, and have been just about every race and ethnicity, and if not all, um, that we can possibly imagine. Languages that aren't even spoken anymore are rooted deep within our soul, and even at the root of our cerebral cortex, those languages still exist, which is why signs and symbols are so powerful. We've seen and experienced so many throughout lifetimes. Archetype is our language, you see. And so, on that soul language, that is what we tap into as empaths, transcending the material experience, which is what we tend to do in unhealthy ways. But to do it in a healthy way, there are some things that we need to understand. And we have just completed our series about the three mother wound empaths. And one of the things we talked about in the mother wound psychic session was the world view of empaths, and particularly psychic empaths. Psychic empaths have a natural affinity to the sciences because of the universality of the language, and many lifetimes transcending what may appear to be physically real, to getting to the truth of what's really going on numerologically, with the geometry, with the geology, with the astronomy. And that is the astrology that I use, the astrology based on the actual placement of the stars, which is called sidereal astrology, also known as Vedic astrology, the culture that has practiced sidereal astrology the longest and has taught the world the most about it. I have been a student of this for many years, and am going to share with you today what I've learned about my wheelhouse and how you can learn about yours too. You can also do this through your tropical astrology because it's based on a particular placement of the lunar nodes. Okay. And there are three caveats to this that I think are really important that I share. And we are going to do that today so you can have some form of interpretation when you download your chart. As always, in the information section, there are links to calculating your birth chart today. The links that support our discussions are always in the text below. And whether you're going to do it tropically or whether you're going to do the Vedic astrology, there will be links there so that you can see in your chart what this is. Okay. And I'll kind of briefly give an explanation of the difference between your wheelhouse based on the houses. What are houses versus signs? Often that's very confusing for people. Even practicing astrologers, I've found sometimes, are confused about it. And it's really a simple explanation, which I'll go over with you. And of course, we have our message from Great Mother, who, of course, is the authority that we listen to. For me, it is the Black Madonna, the source and center, the cosmic center of all creation, the cosmic womb of all creation, who is always, who is always here for her children who are in pain, who always has a message of healing for those of us struggling to reconnect with her maternal presence, provision of care and protection. So that's what we are doing today in this session. And hey, like I said, it's a summer session. This is just kind of me kind of riffing and just kind of giving a breakdown of something that I've experienced. And the foundation of our learning here is the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle Deck. And of course, that daily healing ritual is all about that loop conversion, that emotional loop that we're in of shame, blame, and guilt, about the shame of not receiving that maternal provision of care, protection, and presence, and converting that into birthright, the birthright of health, happiness, and wholeness that we all have. And so that conversion in that daily ritual from those triggers, okay, that trigger separates us from that great mother care. And all rituals have the three steps of separation, transformation, and integration. So that trigger, that unhealed wound that just someone said something, or even a loud noise, or something just really interrupts that smooth kind of flow vibe that we're in, that trigger. We acknowledge it, and we begin immediately investigating it so we can transform it. And by working with the deck, we do that by receiving her message that immediately transforms it. Okay, it's a form of trigger management, actually. And then the integration of the message is our work. We have to walk it out. We have to walk her message out, whether we are questioning it, challenging it, seeing whether or not it's true. What we are doing is we are aligning with it in a way that is authentic for us, so that we can observe what happens as we do acknowledge and receive the message and choose what our actions will be going forward, because we know this is a karma induced lifetime. It's based on the abandonment and abuse behaviors that we've had many lifetimes before. You know, a lot of people who I've worked with are the sweetest people in the world, and this lifetime have not harmed a fly. But of course, we have three types of karma, don't we? You know, we have the karma from past lives, from actions that we have done as different races, as you know, the sexes, and as the, you know, husband, the wife, the child, you know. And we have karma that we're creating now, which is why the daily practice is also very important. It's just like a mantra. I am a dearly loved divine child of the great Mother, Father God, who's never judged, condemned, or left alone. It's just like the repetition of these actions, these mantras reverse those karmas, those actions do. And of course, that integration is what we are here to do. And so, as we do that and walk it out, we're also looking at the symbology of the deck, which is why I brought it up. The chakras, of course, are ruled by planets. We're talking about our wheelhouses today. And the moon, of course, is a planet. Actually, it's a satellite. That maternal energy, that satellite, that helicopter mom going around the earth, you know, and that separation really being symbolized by the gods and goddesses. You know, like Kendrick Lamar said, sometimes you got to pop out. And that's what gods and goddesses do. That's what those of us who acknowledge our divinity do. We pop out of the conditioning. And one thing I want to say in segueing into our wheelhouses is that conditioning is very important. We're very grateful for our conditioning, which is one of the reasons why we can't break away, because we know intuitively that without it, we wouldn't survive. And we're extremely grateful for that. A lot of people don't have proper conditioning, as we can see in the world today. And many of us have had that foundationally. Now, there are those of us who are also in that category that were raised by wolves and left alone like weeds. But those of us who have had that foundation are very grateful. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We learned the ropes, of life. And that really helped us to concentrate more on our gifts, talents, and abilities because we didn't have to worry about reinventing the wheel to survive and to struggle to do that. Those of us who have had to struggle to do that, you are even older souls because you had to contribute to using your gifts, skills, and talents to raise your parents, whether they were present or not. Because as we find with no contact, our parents are still very present, whether they are alive or they have transitioned. They're still extremely, even more so. Those soul bonds are strong. And so, how do we not reframe intellectually? And this is what many of us do with Uranus moon. Looking at your chart, go ahead and pull out those charts. I'll wait. Put me on pause as you do because you're going to need it. As you look in your chart, you will see either a circle in the tropical or a square in the Vedic. Okay, you're going to see a square either with other squares inside with the Vedic chart or squares that have triangles. Those are the houses. If you have the tropical circle, of course, the pie slices are the houses. In the tropical chart, where you see ASC over to the left, you will see the first sign of Aries, and that is why there's a 1 there, because that's the first house, or there's the sign of um, the ram's horns over to okay, that may not be to the left if you're not an Aries ascendant, but wherever you see that ram's kind of that V, that's Aries. Okay, and so that's the sign in your tropical chart. Okay, where you see those symbols, that's the sign. And then next to that, there's the circle with the loop horns, the Taurus. And then it goes into Gemini with it looks like the Roman numeral 2. Okay, those are the signs. Those are the symbols of the signs. And you can Google those if you're not familiar with that symbology. Those are universal. Okay, everyone in the world who knows astrology knows those signs. Those are the astrological signs of the zodiac on your tropical chart. That over to the left that I was telling you, the circle where it may or may not have ASC there, your ascendant ASC inside one of those pie slices, that is your ascendant. That location is where we're going to start. So let me get you situated tropical. You got your signs around your pie, you have your ascendant, and thirdly, over to the left, okay? And that's yeah, that's gonna be where your ascendant is, over to your left. That's gonna be your ascendant. Okay, like going down from the line is your ascendant, and above that line is your 12th house. Okay, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's where your ascendant's going to be. Your ascendant is there. Okay, that tells you where your first house is. Aries is the first sign, but your ascendant is the first house. So let's get that right. Wherever that ram is on your chart is where the zodiac wheel begins. The zodiac is the placement of the celestial stars in the sky. And so, where that Aries celestial body is, and where that Taurus celestial body is, and we have the Big Dipper and the bear and all of that, those are the signs. Okay. And how do they change for everybody based on the rotation of the earth? For you, tropical astrology. So it is a geocentric astrology. It looks at the sky from the earth. And so, based on where you were born, what time and what day your little body came out of your birth mother's, where that horizon, that line, that kind of lid on the earth, okay, that kind of rim on the earth, that cosmic rim, I call it, on the earth, is where the ascendant is. And the ascendant is where what sign the sun was in at the exact moment of your birth. Now we know the sun changes signs every 30 days. However, with your birth chart, the ascendant, okay, the sun changes signs every 30 days. And so when you come out of your mother's belly, like if you come out of your mother's belly right now, the sun is in the tropical Cancer, I believe. And so you'd be a sun sign Cancer because the sun is in the sign of Cancer for its solar transit. But for its aura transit, going through the hours in relationship to where it is on the horizon as the earth rotates and the horizon shifts every 2 hours. There are 24 hours in a day. And every 2 hours, that horizon shifts like a clock. And that's why our hours are based on the 12 hours as well. So they're wheels within wheels. And so when that shifts, wherever that sun is on that horizon where you came out is your ascendant because the sun was rising. You call it the rising sign, the ascendant on that horizon at that time. And so the ascendant sign, so the ascendant is not a sign. The ascendant is not a sign. The ascendant is where your first house is cast. So there are three ways we refer to this horizon point as our ascendant, rising sign, and first house. Okay? That's your first house over to the left. All right. So we will return to you as we come together with all of this. And of course, that daily healing ritual is all about, okay, now for you with the sidereal chart, what you're going to do is look at the triangle chart. Okay. You can look at the square chart and see the same thing, but just look at the triangle chart because you can just look at the top, and that top triangle is your first house. Okay. That's your first house based on the same explanation just given about where the sun was on the horizon. Now you're going to see the number one. You're not going to see any of those symbols I mentioned that are universal, even though they're universal in Vedic astrology as well. They are not used in their birth chart calculations in the actual chart. They use the number that represents the sign. So the number one is your Aries in your chart, where the sign of Aries was at the time of your birth in relationship to your house placement. So your first house is on top. Your first house is that top triangle going to the left. Immediate left is your second house. The immediate left to that is your third house, and so on and so forth. So, all we're going to be looking at today is the ascendant sign, that rising, that first house, your moon, of course. We always look at our moon sign. So wherever you see M, okay. Now for you with the sidereal chart, what SA is where Saturn is. So the Saturn moon that we talk about, if you have Saturn in the same triangle with the moon, you have that Saturn moon conjunction. If you don't have it, you will probably have a Saturn aspect to the moon, which is what we're going to talk about in later sessions. But what I can say for now is that in both charts, whether you are in the sidereal, the Vedic chart, where you start at the top triangle and you count your way around to the right of that top triangle, which is the 12th house, you count all the way around from the left, first house, immediate to the left, second house, immediate to that, third house. Those are the houses for the Vedic chart. And for the tropical chart, over to the left, where you have that ascendant line, we talked about the first house, it goes down. Okay, so from that line, that first house is down one, two, three, all the way over to the right. Bottom of the line, sixth house. Top of the line is the seventh house. Bottom of the chart, first six houses are personal placements of the planet. Okay. And wherever we have planetary placements in our charts is where we have karma, is where we have to work out things this lifetime. Because planets, as we've discussed before in Chakra Boom, planets are grahas. In the Sanskrit, grahas mean energetic influences, planetary influence, cosmic influence. So we carry the five elements, the helium, nitrogen, oxygen. We carry these five elements within us, hydrogen. We carry um, the same elements of the stars. So we come from the stars. We're made of the same things. Okay. Even the dirt from which we emerge in our natural material form on this planet, Earth. So, again, we're talking about the worldview of the psychic empath. It's much more broad. And that's how we can transcend what is felt many times to be real in the material world. We remember that we are here pretty much in a dream state. This is what is not real. The soul is real, and the soul has incarnate in this material form. And the reason it feels real is because we are divine children. We're powerful. But if we don't know that, we move in a different way. Okay. We want to be powered. Sometimes we're just tired. Sometimes we just get really, really tired. And so knowing our wheelhouse will help us be more efficient in our lives. For example, the moon determines your north and your south node. So that positioning of those nodes is where the soul is coming from and where the soul is going to this lifetime in terms of lessons. Those nodes are basically the north and the south pole of the moon at the time you were born. And those poles were facing towards opposing celestial signs. So we got our houses. Our houses are, like it says in the word, my father has many mansions. And those mansions, those houses are your unique reflection of the sky. We were created in the image of divinity. We are the same thing, but we are sparks of it. We are droplets of water. We are mist. We are specks of sand. But it's all the same thing. Okay? We're all the same element, but unique. We're different snowflakes and all that good stuff. Different plants with different leaves, but the same species, and different species, but the same nourishment at the end of the day. That is what the houses are. The houses, your setup of where the sun was at the horizon, your ascendant, is your unique reflection of the sky at the time of your birth. The planets are always moving. Everything is always in motion. That's why grief and the release of mama drama trauma, it's necessary. That's life. This is life. Life is birth, death, regeneration, birth, death, rebirth. You know, it's a cycle: separation, transformation, integration. You know, generation, disintegration, regeneration. It is a cycle. And so, this wheel within a wheel is that birth, that snapshot of the sky when we were born, setting in place a default mechanism. It is a holographic field in which we operate and we relate to the world, and the world relates to us. It is a uh, avatar of Great Mother, Father, God, the Holy Spirit, the logos in the world, and the word in form. That is what is created when we are born. And that is who we are, and we operate as each lifetime. That's the soul. That's the expanded view. That's the world view. We know as psychic empaths that, and intuitive empaths, we know it's not an intellectual masturbation that we're doing here. We know that life expands beyond this context, and that is known because we've had many lifetimes where we've experienced that. We've experienced things that shouldn't be experienced in quote unquote the real world. And we've talked a lot about how we have survived impossible things. We have helped heal people. We have brought people through initiations that they should not have survived because the people needed strong people at that time. We know this. Okay. We know this. And that's why it's so difficult for those of us to come back to this knowledge because, quote unquote, the real world doesn't, they don't know. And they don't want to know. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Everything changes. That's life. It's not going to always be an indigenous, tribal, insular community that appreciates us and that sort of thing. Why did it change? Because, we became abusive, which is why we are where we are now. Controlling people and that sort of thing. Power corrupts, even in those who should know. And so that's why we have a daily practice to stay humble to what is going on within us. And so these challenges can be overcome by realizing that that south node, that south pole of the moon, called the south node in your tropical chart. Okay, so you're going to be looking for the symbol of it's like a helmet or a hook that is almost like the Taurus symbol, but it's really like a curtain hook that goes up, and the sides are kind of squirrely, and then you have one that goes down. Those hooks. That's the Rahu in the Vedic. It's going to say Rahu in your chart. Okay. That's the north node. K2 is the south node and the sidereal. Okay, so we're going to go through that one more time because this is where we see our wheelhouse. Okay, that house, that hologram that we operate as, from, perceive the world and how the world perceives us. This is the material body, celestial body interface. All of our chakras are based on the placement of these planets that rule the chakras. Okay. And so that's a whole nother lesson. But again, in your Vedic chart, you're going to see RA for the North Node, and you're looking for that KE, where that KE is. It's going to show it in one of those triangles. And remember, those numbers are the signs. So if that KE is in 5, that's the 5th zodiac sign of Leo. If it's in 4, it's in Cancer, and it'll show below. Okay, you have the symbology of the chart, but you can also just look below and it's going to tell you below over to the left the planets, and it's going to tell you the sign written out for you, as well as in your tropical chart. If you just scroll down, it's just going to tell you the sign, which is different from the house. Again, that sign is that celestial zodiac sign. So the house, that first house, that ascendant that forms your physical body. Our physical body is based on the house placement. Our minds, all of that is based on, it's the house we live in this lifetime. And we have many houses. Just like great father, my father has many houses. So do we. We have 12. We have 12 houses. That's why people confuse them with the signs. Those houses express the same energy of those signs. Our first house acts like Aries. It's the leader because it leads us into this world. It's how the body appears. Our second house has Taurian energies. That's where our money is. That's where we store and save our money. Those houses are where we have strengths and where we have weaknesses. Those houses is where our karma is placed. Those planets come into those houses where we have issues to deal with related to our body, okay, related to how we store and what money we are able to store in that Taurus second house. The third house, short distance travel, so on and so forth. Of course, we want to know about our fourth house because those of you who do not have Saturn moon conjunction within a house, the fourth house of the mother, home, real estate, comfort may be where your Saturn is placed. Okay? And that is the aspect of Saturn moon. And so, as I said, we can get more into that. But today, so far, we've talked about the actual houses being that archetype, that hologram of us, the north and south nodes, that Rahu Ketu, past lives Ketu, ancestors, our relationships with others, our experiences, our gifts, talents, and abilities. That is where the soul has had the most experience, is the most comfortable, is the most skilled, has mastery over. Rahu is what we're learning this lifetime. It is the opposing house, as you see. It opposes that symbology of that hook. One is up, one is down. The one that is up that looks like it could go over you like earphones. Okay. The one that is up like earphones is the Rahu, is the North Node, and the one that's upside down is the Ketu. That's the past. That is our wheelhouse. And of course, we talked about those houses 1 through 6, which are personal. You have planets there, there's karma there. 7 through 12, it's more the soul is learning how to deal with internal issues. So if you have a distributed chart with, in other words, the planets and including Rahu and Ketu, there would be 9. They're not actually planets; they are lunar placements, the nodes, but and they are treated as signs. They're treated as planets, rather. Um, if they're distributed throughout the chart, well, then there are a lot of different lessons to learn. And for all of us, there are a lot of different lessons to learn, whether they're there just well distributed or not. But the flavor of them are going to be really unique because as we just went over the first 4 houses of your chart, you can see, if you have signs in those first 4 houses, you're going to be learning a lot about yourself and your body. You're going to be learning your identity. You're going to be learning a lot about saving money, about communication and connecting. You're going to be learning a lot about your mother. And so, um, depending on the K2 placement, that could be really, really challenging, whether or not it's your wheelhouse. And so, it's always best to use an example. And so for me, since we're just kind of, shooting the breeze here, my K2 is in my 10th house. I am a Scorpio ascendant. And so Scorpio is the symbolic 8th house energy. And of course, 8 is that symbol of transformation. Okay. And it is also the symbol of the occult, deep thought, spirituality. And so that's how I came into the world and how I move and perceive the world and how others perceive me. And so 10 houses from Scorpio is Leo, okay? Is the sign of Leo in my birth chart. I call our birth charts our unique cosmic calculus. Every Scorpio ascendant has Leo 10th house, but they don't all have K2 in the 10th house, and they don't all have Mars in the 7th house, and they don't all have the Sun in the 6th house. It's our unique cosmic calculus. And so for me, with K2 being my wheelhouse, to show you how the wheelhouse plays out with regard to these 3 aspects of looking at the personal houses that we have to deal with karmically, and the 7th through 12th houses that we have to deal with karmically, and really our Saturn placement telling us the intensity of that as well. But we'll go into that later. We said today we're going to talk about the 3 influential aspects of our wheelhouse, that South Node or K2, which is that line down the middle, 1 through 6, 7 through 12, Rahu K2, the North Node, South Node, and what was the other one? We're talking about um, the actual house itself, which for me is the 10th house of Leo. Now, 10th house energy is Capricorn energy. Capricorn energy is the goat on top of the hill. How did the goat get up there? My aunt sent me a book when I was in college called uh, Hind's Feet on in High Places. And I really needed that book at that time. I was in London and I had just had a lot of challenges with a long distance relationship, trying to finish graduate school and what was I going to do next, and all of that stuff. And it was a story about this little sweet goat that lived in a little sweet village and went into a little cottage to eat with the little sweet family that didn't have much, but the goat was so sweet and this, that, and the other. And it had been called to go up high. And it was just really worrying about whether or not it could do it. It could do it. It could do it, but it knew it had to get up there. And everybody, all the little animals, was encouraging it to go up there. Now, of course, we know that goats can get up there and can miraculously balance their bodies on these rugged hills. But for him, just like us, we are born with all of these abilities and all of these lifetimes and all this experience. But until we experience it in this one, unless we are a very old soul, we don't know until we do it. And I'll tell you, the healthy empaths that have come through this that are older than us, and sometimes they're younger than us, they haven't had the hits yet that we've gone through. And so, that's why being able to see a birth chart can tell you a lot. But they don't question it. Healthy empaths, whether they're older or a little bit younger, and younger, that they haven't really gone through the narcissist phase yet. Okay, narcissism comes before um, MDT, um, and it can come afterwards. But when we talk about mental illness, we can go into that. Um, they don't question it. Healthy empaths don't question it. And it's so funny because they don't need to do a lot of this deep stuff that we do either. They'll just be like, something happens, or they'll get a download of something, or they'll even perceive non-material energies, and they'll just be like, gee, wow, that was really cool. you know and just like, okay, what was that supposed to mean? I guess that was my Uncle Sarah. And it's just, it's no deep analysis about it. They just be going on with it, just trusting Great Mother's download. They don't have to do these machinations and this incremental analysis of Great Mother messages and everything, because their trust has not been disrupted. It has not been disturbed. And when you have your 10th house Capricorn energy, which is your work, your reputation, that hard work it takes to get up that mountain, even though you got 50 million signs that you can make it, even though you got all the support that you need, somehow, some way, it's not enough with Capricorn. We have to do it. We have to do it. And it really has to be our way and our understanding that Capricorn energy is expressed through the 10th house. Now, it's not the 10th sign of Capricorn, not in my unique cosmic calculus. It's the house, it's the energy that permeates it throughout my being in that 10th house energetically, which represents all those things. So it represents in the material world, as I materialize, the 10th house represents career and reputation. Okay. And Leo is there. It was in the sign of Leo. Okay. That, that, that prism at the time of my birth, when I came out of my mother's womb, of the sky, that cosmic calculus put that energy of that house facing toward and absorbing the energy of the constellation of Maga in Leo, which Vedic astrology goes deeper into not just the sign, because a lot of Scorpio ascendants could have K2 in the 10th house, and I'm sure millions of them do. But maybe hundreds of thousands have them in the nakshatra of Maka. Okay. And so this energy is a very strong leadership energy. And it is an energy that is, nakshatras are basically the brightness, the message from the stars distilled through the moon. And so every planet is not just in a sign, but it has a message distilled through the stars in that constellation, filtered through Mother Moon. Vedic astrology is lunar astrology, it's based on the moon. And so we don't just know our ascendant, but the moon sign. All of these things I'm talking about are also calculated from the moon sign using the moon as the ascendant. Okay. And so there's a lot going on with the lunar astrology that explains a lot in life, which is what helped me heal from what I'm about to tell you. K2 is past life. And that's why it's our wheelhouse. We've had all this experience, right? But when we materialize, that is the symbol of release in your chart. You've done it so many times, you've done it to death. It's time to let it go. Okay? It's time to go towards the North Node, Rahu. The soul needs to learn lessons in the whole opposite direction. It needs to turn around. It needs to take those lessons with it to do a whole different opposing thing, which makes my Rahu in Aquarius. It's not the Leo energy of me, and then a strong Maha me. It's in the direction, North Node of service, of getting in vibe with others. And so these lifetimes of me learning how to do this Aquarius energy are extremely challenging because I'll tell you, just like hinds feet on high places, I have all the support I need to do what I'm doing in comfort, in luxury, in fact. But because my soul has experienced such attention, adoration, appreciation, being the center, Leo, the lion, the best and the strongest in the jungle of whatever field I've been in for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Most of my life, I didn't feel that I could do it. And I still, question it because my wheelhouse is that. My wheelhouse is that. It is leading. It is being the center of attention. That's what I know how to do. I know how to do that. Okay? And so people don't really talk a lot beyond the surface of wheelhouse because if you do, you're going to have to get into this. You're going to have to get into, okay, that's great. But how's that Rahu treating you? How's that North Node treating you? You have to get into all of that and then come away with the analysis, the machinations of the incremental understanding of each aspect for it to make sense, for it to give any type of valuable data that you can use to integrate the message. And for me, this whole quandary has been a lifetime of surrendering, which has been necessary for the healing of MDT, which has to do with my moon placement aspected with Saturn. So all of it works together, but it's not the wheelhouse that we perhaps have thought of because when we think of wheelhouse, our gifts, talents, and abilities, we think that there's something that we can use for our benefit. And that's true. But it's for the benefit of soul alignment, for us to align with the soul, for us to soul align, not for what we think we can use it for to buy a new car or a new house or to get the attention of other people, which has been the bane of my existence. You know, I mean, and it's really funny because Leo, and this is um, looking at my chart in the 10th house, this is the 7 to 12. For me, the inner work around career has been the loss of career. I'm at an age where my most of my adulthood, people were still trying to do that 20, 30, 40-year career to retirement. And I still have friends who are, getting themselves ready to retire, or they've been on a job for 20 years or whatever, or they have just lost a job that they were on or in or a career for 30 or whatever years. And they are completely devastated that they've lost it. But that's been my whole life. I've never kept, quote unquote, a job. And it wasn't until this last decade that I have been aware of my unique cosmic calculus that I've accepted. That's not for me. K2 represents loss, represents past life and ancestors, our relationships in the past, particularly our ancestral guidance, our DNA also. Because Rahu K2, the north node, south node, is the kundalini of the chart. Okay. And so the kundalini, of course, that root chakra at the bottom, that root, that's K2. Okay. That root to the gut chakra energy that we're always talking about. Heart below, heart above. Rahu is that heart above type energy, which is very boisterous. And we can talk about it another time, but getting back to how to use the wheelhouse, you have to first recognize what it is, accept it. Once I accept it, okay, so I'm not going to have a quote unquote career. And this is in the, um, time of my life where I'm really thinking, okay, so I finally have gotten together. I can get me a really good career. And then it was like, it's spirituality, babe. You came here in a spiritual form, and so you gonna be doing that, you know. And so it wasn't something that I sought, but it has been in my life now as I reflect, because K2 is DNA. My mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, all Black Madonna energy consultants of the community and healers. I didn't even think about it. I wasn't trained by them because they had MDT. Um, and it wasn't healed in their lifetime. But, um, you know, uh, uh, that's what you do. Somebody has to break the cycle. And that is what my career has been and continues to be. That's my life's work. That's my reputation. And, you know, being a Scorpio, it's not going to always be a good one. People are not going to always like you because you are dealing with hidden things. People don't like that, you know, and you have to learn how to deal with that. And so, um, that's where the inner work comes in, because 10th house, that's seven above, that's inner work. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's inner work. First to the sixth house, that's really kind of, it is about yourself, but it's about yourself, um, on a personal level, um, like say, for example, okay, fourth house is the mother, the third house is communication. It's this, that personal kind of one-on-one, and like how you're dealing with the world. Um, And the 7th through the 12th is kind of how the world deals with you. And the career and how the world was dealing with me was something that required me to do inner work. It wasn't an outer work that I was going to be able to connect with the world, because after 30, 40 years, I just realized that wasn't happening. And I'm not on a lot of social media now because um I still do, it because I enjoy doing it. And that's another aspect in my chart with my moon, and a lot of with Saturn moon. You have to do what you enjoy. because you're not going to get joy from the world. You're not going to get joy from the world, and that is symbolized to the mother, the material mother. Fourth house is also joy. What gives us joy? What gives us pleasure in life? That fourth house energy. Okay. And each house is ruled by a planet. And so the 10th house being Capricorn energy and Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, Saturn is karma. And Leo, okay, being the sign of my 10th house, is ruled by the sun. So I have Saturn moon energy there, which is a very antagonistic energy. And so people perceive what I have to share, even though my intention is good. And we can see that in my chart as well, with Jupiter in my 12th house, retrograde. Um, Retrograde makes the planet stronger. Okay. And it also says that it's something that we've carried over from a past life and something that we must do and handle this lifetime, pending karma. And so the intention is to give, the intention is to share, but it's not received that way most of the time. And so that's why I have to do what I enjoy, whether people watch the videos on YouTube or not, whether people listen to the podcast or not, even though, more people are, and that's great. And I'm happy about that. I've gotten to a point where, as in the past, where that was really hurtful because I wasn't working my Saturn moon. I hadn't learned that that's what you have to do with Saturn moon. But as I've learned that and I've walked it out, I've integrated the information. There's always this separation, this disappointment, this trigger. And that was very triggering being raised by a mother. Aquarius is my fourth house. And so, fourth house is that Cancer energy, that mother ruled by the moon, a very unique, as I said, a mother who's all about what I'm teaching here. You better do your thing, girl, and being expected to achieve the highest and wanting to please her, especially with all of the distance that we had between us, wanting her to be happy, feeling that sadness as if it was my own and all of that. It was devastating when, after all of the investment in my education and traveling the world before it was a thing, and going to Africa and learning about all of these different traditions that we're just now learning now, um, and I'll share more about that when we talk about motherland, um, the motherland, mother wound, which Americans have twice. All Americans have twice. Um, Not all, but many of them have felt rejection from their motherland, and then they get here in America. There's a rejection as well because of the racism on all sides. Um, but that pain body is where we can use our wheelhouse. And if my wheelhouse is being able to lead, get attention, uh, entertain, then I can use all of that to make me happy. Now, I didn't say nothing about whether or not other people were going to like it, but that's my wheelhouse. And that's what I choose to do. And folk can come along or not. And the older I get and the more I embrace it to learn the lessons of that Aquarius mother, is not just the birth mother wanting me to align with her purpose, but now that I know great mother's purpose for my life, which is for me to be what? Happy, healthy, and whole. I'm doing it the best way I can, new to this Aquarian energy. I'm doing it the most pleasurable way that I know how, learning and sharing this Aquarian energy. And in doing that, that Saturn is what do they call it when somebody is satisfied or when somebody is um you know that Saturn is appeased. It's appeased because those nodes are karmic, and remember, they are the north and south pole of the moon, and that Saturn is what is constricting the joy, constricting the maternal presence, protection, and provision of care. And the more we satisfy that moon with our wheelhouse, whether it is how the world is relating to us from the 7th to 10th, 7th is our personal professional relationships. Above that, the line on the wheel for my tropical people. For my Vedic people, of course, that 7 opposes that top triangle, that bottom triangle is your 7th house. So there, all the way to the right to the 12th, the right of that first house is your 7th through 12th house. And so where you have planets there in particular, of course, Rahu and Ketu are going to be on either sides of those. And so we all have this kundalini that we're dealing with in terms of how we're relating to the world and how the world is relating to us. And that wheelhouse helps us to be able to deal with the pain body of this material form that we, in particular, as empaths, have to manage coming from the astral plane. Some of us, when we transition, we stay in the astral plane for eons, and we come back by choice. I know I did, and I ain't gonna choose to come back no more. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And how do we know that? Well, um, it's an intuitive thing, but it's also something that can be seen in the chart. One of the things that you can look at is what's called a Brigu Bentu point. And we'll talk about that at another time. And this is in the Vedic chart. So, my tropical people, you're going to have to get your Vedic chart. You're going to look at your Brigu Bentu point. This is what you came here for. And it may be something to do, it's always a karmic thing. And it's a karmic thing of completion called moksha, or liberation from physical life, or it's a liberation from a karma, just for a particular series of lifetimes or this lifetime. Okay, it's a series of lifetimes. It's finishing a cycle, that wheel within a wheel. Okay, I've not only been Scorpio ascendant, there are charts within each house in the Vedic astrology. So not only is there the general birth chart or when I came out of my mother's womb, but in your Vedic chart, each of those 12 houses has their own chart. So I was just talking about the 10th house is where my south node, the K2 is, where the past lives of the soul. That house has a chart. So I can look at my career in the minutia of it, which is what confirms everything that I've shared with you about what I'm doing, if that hasn't been enough. Um, so all of these things we can look at, but the Brigu Bentu point, that is the exact point between your moon, where the moon is in your chart, and Rahu. And for me, that is in the final degrees of Pisces. Okay, that's one of the things that you can look at. So, um, you know, um, that's how you can determine your wheelhouse, is by looking at yourself. No, but you're going to have to consider, um, is the wheelhouse something that, you're kind of relating to others, about? um are you, that first through sixth house, that kind of, it's about you. Okay, it's about that first, that your identity and who you are, the first, the sixth house, you know the mother, fifth house, your education, your schooling, your hobbies, sixth house, your work, your daily life, your daily grind, your health. It's about you. Seventh house, your relationships, personal and professional. It's about you and how you're relating to the world. You're going to have to consider that with your wheelhouse. Where is that K2? Is it there for first through sixth, where you're really still dealing with your issues? Or is it like me, seventh through 12th house, none's better, none's but worse, but the seventh through 12th house is more of how you're dealing with the world. Eighth house is, you know, your relationship to your spouse's resources. It's other people's property. It's your spirituality and how you are relating to the divine. It is your return on investment. It is this relationship with the world. Ninth house, your teachers, your guru, your higher education. 10th house, we talked about the career reputation. 11th house, your blessings, your what you get from all your hard work. A lot of times people listen to the reports and the astrology and they say, oh, you're going to be getting this and you're going to be getting that. All of that is always based on what you've put into it, past, present, life included. Okay. So sometimes people get a big boon and they haven't done anything. But because of all of what was done in past lives, here it comes. And that's what I'm living off of. I'm living off of efforts that I've made in the past on this path. And I'm very grateful for that. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not something just anybody can do. I mean, you have to have a lot of inner strength. You have to just really, really be able to define, establish, and maintain healthy boundaries without the shame, blame, and guilt. And not to say I didn't have that this lifetime, but some people never get it. But you have to have the fortitude to continuously refine those boundaries for people and situations to better experience your divinity identity. I'm saying that because my K2 is in the 10th house and I had so much of that lion Leo energy, I came in knowing that I was worth something. I came in here knowing that I was divine. I came in here with that. I came in here with that. I didn't come in here with the ability to ingratiate a worldly career, to get attention, to get notoriety. Although I work like a horse, I mean, I work like a mule. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. And I need to feel appreciated based on my birth chart. But because my wheelhouse says K2 in Leo in my 10th house, ruled by the sun is the soul. The soul has to let that go. Yeah, the soul still feels like it needs that. And through me incarnating through this material form, that's the kundalini. That's the chakras. That's that root through gut that I feel the need for that. I feel it. But understanding that the actual placement of the sun in my chart is in Aries, also leadership. That's my sixth house, though, from Scorpio. In my cosmic calculus, that's where the sun is. You got to look where that sun is that rules that Leo sign of the 10th house. And it's conjunct Saturn there. Close conjunction. Saturn and the sun do not get along. And if you know the mythology, it's not nice. They don't F with each other. Okay. And so there's this constant inner turmoil because my soul is really wanting to, hey, look, the 10th house Capricorn energy ruled by Saturn. That's it's been an ongoing internal battle my entire life. And like, that's why I said, even now in my daily life, I have to work that out to get up to do my joy work all the time. And so that's my wheelhouse. I came in here with that strength that I know I'm worth something. I know I'm divine. I got the fortitude to define, transform, and all this kind of stuff. How am I going to use it? Am I going to keep on knocking at a door that's not going to open for me? Or am I going to use it to receive all that I got coming to me for my efforts for trying? Yeah, it hasn't been it ain't been the best, which you can see in my chart. I got Saturn on my sun. That's heavy karma. Narcissism down in past lives. Leo, all that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Been doing all that. And that's why we have so much compassion for narcissists. We understand that there is a hatred, a jealousy, and a need to take our blessings because they have not developed their empathy to divinity yet. And we can sense that. And we're trying to help them on some level. And there's a karmic relationship there because we've been there. We just coming out of that. We just coming out of that. And for whatever reason, through that narcissism, somebody taught us. We saw something. We were a king. We were a leader. We were something. I was speaking for myself, in which somebody showed me that it wasn't about that. And I received that. And I allowed that to come into my spirit as a truth for me. And here I am. I still got to do the work of resolving that karma. And I chose to come back here to do more work on that. And from my regressions, it was still from a really kind of egotistical place that I chose to do it. I remember being surrounded by my guides, and they were like, "Now, you sure you want to go back?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I was like, I was laying down on this bed. It's like a steel bed, almost like I was in a spaceship or something. And they were sitting around it, in like these robes, and they were of all nationalities and, you know, women, all ages, all over 40, but they were various ages and stuff. It was about six of them. And they were like, "Okay, so you want to go back?" And I saw myself standing on top of a pyramid in Mexico, or what we now know as Mexico, giving a message to people. And they were cheering me on. And I was in this white dress and I was just giving this message. And then all of a sudden, a wave came across the crowd where they just started turning against me. And the clouds turned dark and lightning started striking and everything. And I cowered down into myself. And that was the end of that. And I was just so hurt. I was so hurt that in that moment when they were asking me that, and I remember being kind of carried through the crowd in these kind of flinting visions. Some people were saying, "Get rid of her, she's none of this and that, she ain't about nothing, this, that." And some people were like, "Oh my gosh, why did they do that?" It was just like very traumatic, but at the same time, I was like, "Oh, I didn't say it right, or they didn't understand, or maybe if I do it this way next time, or it." And that's the vibe that I had when I was laying on the table. I gotta come back. This time they'll understand. This time, yes, I do. Yes, I do. You don't have to. I mean, we suggest that you don't. We strongly suggest that you don't do it. But next thing I knew, I was here because I was bound and determined. And so that's why we come back. If you look at a book that I put down, in the information, how to be a channel. It explains, the planes, the material, the physical, the astral, the causal, and how the soul travels through those. And this is ancient knowledge. There are three disclaimers. Number one, use self-awareness when determining how, when, and with whom you apply this information. It is your responsibility to use it according to what you know is true for you and about you. Two, if you are in any form of mental or emotional therapy or in a doctor's care, though imparted tips, tools, and techniques are proven as effective supplements to formal care, what is offered here is not intended to replace it. If you are at any time triggered, pause the session and resume once you've regulated. And three, while Mama Drama Trauma Academy specifically speaks to empaths with the mother wound, absolute accuracy is not guaranteed, nor are results of healing sessions, information, communication, video content, consultations, and sessions with me, Tammy Taylor, or anything on the mamadramatrauma.info website. All content is created for educational, spiritual, and entertainment purposes only. So, that's how you find your wheelhouse. It's the South Node, but you want to consider the things that we've discussed as far as your ascendant and how that soul expresses itself. The house and the house energy, of course, is very important. And that particular K2 placement, what that sign is. Okay, what that sign is and what planet rules that sign. If this all sounds really odd and really strange to you still, um, I'm just giving you something to find your wheelhouse. Just find that KE, just find that South Node, and you'll know that's your wheelhouse. And that's good enough. I'm not going to be doing a series on astrology here with this summer series. Maybe I'll say something else about it if somebody lets me know that they want to know more. Otherwise, come back for next time for a little riff in a summer session breakdown of something I've experienced and know a little bit about to share with you. Now, for our reading today, Great Mother's message in response to the question, what does Great Mother want us to know about our wheelhouse and how to use it? We have three cards here, and they are all major arcana cards. Two are aspire cards, and one is a law card. So the first card we have here in the past position, we're doing past, present, and future, is processing gut chakra balsamic moon download card. Letting go. So in the past, she's saying that we've really not been into the wheelhouse thing. We've been really releasing the idea of gifts, talents, and abilities. We have been um, processing them, but it's been more of less a process of detachment from relying on our gifts, talents, and abilities so much as something that we can use to manage our triggers, to work with our pain body, to have more health, happiness, and wholeness. We really haven't paid a lot of attention to that wheelhouse in order to be more efficient with our healing process. Presently, with emancipation, also an Aspire card, the E, the inner eye card of home, peace, free, saying right now we have freed ourselves as a result of that process. And we freed ourselves from the reliance on our gifts, talents, and abilities. We freed ourselves from that and we've opened ourselves to finding peace with what is, not relying on our gifts, talents, and abilities so much to bring us that peace, to bring us that ability to work on our pain bodies. We've liberated ourselves from trying to figure that out. And that's where we are presently. But she's saying, as a result of this message, hers and what I've shared today, is that going in the future, we have the law card of Divine Mother. This is the third quarter moon card of release and letting go to be happy, healthy, and whole. She's saying going forward, we're going to let go of any and everything that keeps us from accessing our health, happiness, and wholeness. We're going to let go of things that do not allow us, like in my life, that did not allow me to have joy with my career. That loss of career, where that K2 is what we experience when we're not aware of our cosmic calculus. And that I wasn't aware. It was just loss after loss. It wasn't that I couldn't keep a job because I wasn't a good employee. I said I worked very hard, but it was always something that happened. Always something that happened. It wasn't quite right, or the environment, or the people, the energy. I'm an empath, and this and that and the other. It was just always something. And I always experienced it as a loss. But now, going forward, experiencing more health, happiness, and wholeness as a result of the expanded empathic view of the world is what she is sharing with us, is available to us by embracing our birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. I hope that has been helpful for you and has given you some insight you probably didn't have with regard to the psychic worldview and how signs and symbols are used to understand the reality of our celestial origins in the physical body. But above all and most of all, remember, Great Mother loves you, and I do too.